Welcome back to Broadcast. This is Elijah tuning in again. I just wanted to touch base about a couple things that's been crossing my mind recently, and one of that is I came across a couple of videos today. I don't know if it was just my YouTube uh, uh, algorithms that was throwing these videos my way, or whether it's a lot of conversation out here. But it was the China versus U.S. Conversation, and I wanted to tune in and just talk about that and give my 2 cents on that. Just kind of, I feel like I have a different perspective on compared to most, and that would be just comparing all of the history when you take a look at, you know, America wanted to be a world power versus China being a world power, and historically, and that approaching again. So I just wanted to tune in and talk about that for a while. So, I first and foremost, I wanted to say uh, one thing I personally think China has its beat on is their plan system, and that's they always come up with a 5 year plan, 10 to 20, 30, 40. I think it's all enough like 50, 100 years out. I think that is a genius idea that a country can come up with. In when you look at what they're able to accomplish, truth be told, they obviously don't have um, for better or for worse, they don't have the conflict within. There's one party system. They're really ramming through the ideas, but I don't even know if we could get on the same page here enough to do that. Seeing how the Democrats are fully in power now, and there's such conflict on what we want to accomplish. So when I look at their plan system and just how they're able to accomplish so much compared to our we haven't been able to do that in 50 years. When we every time America seems to have a common enemy and we need to band together, we find a way to do that, but it's when we're being drug into it. It's not something we're actively doing. And so that's something I think America operates on like really a 2 or 4 year plan when you consider who's going to be in power to pass what plans, and or long-term, short-term infrastructure, school system plans, how our tax system works, how it's all on a very short-term basis. So we don't the companies, people, they don't have a very long-term thing that they could look forward to and say, okay, this is what we know for a fact is going to be our tax rate. This is what we know for a fact is going to be the school system if you're a parent or whatever the case is. It's very fluid and moves, and I think that is a good thing. But also, they're able to accomplish so much more larger task. Another thing I want to say is you're always hearing about China stealing intellectual property, and I want to say that that is something America has done in the past. That is something all I would say that is more or less a function of capitalism, and that is the where the cheapest labor is going to go, or where the cheapest labor is. That is where the all of the manufacturing is going to go. Whether that is um, the person that holds the patent or the person that is ripping off the patent. So I think that's something we've done in America. Truth be told, that was 100 years ago. There's probably lots of that happening here too as well now, but 150 years ago, we were ripping off patents left and right from Europe, and they were upset about it, but we don't seem to talk about that ever. So that's something I find very interesting when you consider just the way we look at things. And I say, when America has like a youthful ignorance towards it, when they think that we have been a world power for 100 years or so. But if you would look at the way we treat things, you would consider you would think that we would have been a world power for 500 years. And 500 years ago, this was Native American territory all throughout, and there were not no type of system that there is currently here. So when China was around then, Great Britain was around, France was around, Germany was around, Spain, there all of the other countries that we consider major players have been there in the past historically. When you go back 500 years, even 1,000 years for most of them, and I would say this is the current wave that we are going into, where um, with the Western the Western having the last 500 years or so, and before that, the world was dominated by Africa and the Middle East, and many years before that, China was more advanced, and there's always seemed to be a flow of who is quote unquote running the world, who is the most advanced, who is looking down upon others and who has a hand in everything moving together. And I would say um, that's something that when you just look at how we treat treat our current status, it's very I don't know. I think it's very ignorant to me. So I want to say that this is a flow of capitalism. Capitalism is always going to go to where the cheapest labor is. When America was the cheapest labor, which was not all that long ago. Go back, it's 2021 now. Go back 100 years. There were children working, children as far as like preteens, young teenagers, not 16 here. We're talking young, out of school. You've seen the pictures of the kids in the coal mine smoking cigarettes at 8, 10 years old. You've heard um, you've heard other horror stories throughout. People all throughout the country working 16, 20-hour days for horrible pay. So that's very I don't know. It's very easy for us to look back and say, okay, well, look at what China's doing. They don't pay their workers, but we weren't. It took major people gathering together in a movement, the labor movement, companies getting unionized. I'm being from Flint. That's where a lot of it really kicked off with their strikes in Flint in the 30s, and that was a major kickoff towards what came the developing of the middle class. So I'd say this is a system, a feature of the capitalism system. And really, when you look at what China's doing, is they're starting to infuse both communism from form of a government and a form of a form of I don't want to say a free economy, but a form of capitalism where they are taking control. The state is taking control in larger important things, whether it's healthcare, whether it's energy, whether it's some tech companies. And I would say that we don't do that here, but their system there is allowing them to move forward quicker than we are here. We hear about market manipulation there. We're pumping in money, trillions of dollars into the economy here every time it starts to drag down a little bit. We've bailed out our major banks. We've bailed out GM, Chrysler. We floating up the airlines right now. So I would say I would say we pick and choose when we're going to do that and when we're not going to do that. But that's just my 2 cents on where it's headed. And I think China is I be honest, in my lifetime they will become the world superpower. Now how easy that happens, I don't know. I think also we are going to um, not let them get so far before we start to really agitate them and poke at them in different various ways. I know they want us out of the South China Sea. That's not going to happen easy for us. We have more or less a country that we can easily manipulate as far as we have military troops all throughout parts of Korea, South Korea, that is, as well as on the water throughout there. So I think it's going to be real interesting to see how that plans out. We're not going to let them get too close to us. I know we were very upset when Trump dropped the ball and allowed them to uh, go into Venezuela and do some things there. So I would say we're going to fight to keep them out of our neck of the woods, more or less, away from our shore, away from anything on this hemisphere. So that's going to be a deciding factor of how quickly things ramp up, is if they want to come over here and how we allow that to happen or don't allow that to happen. But as far as their system, as long as the man with the plan wins, and nobody could tell you in government where we're going to be 3 years from now, let alone 30 years. And they have a plan on paper right now for 30 years out. So that's my 2 cents on that. Thanks for tuning in again. Progressive Broadcast. Thanks for tuning in. Elijah.